Welcome to the greatest crypto podcast in all the universe's worlds. Welcome to the Orange Brick Road. And you know it's important because I'm using this deep voice.
Hello and welcome again everybody to the Orange Brick Road podcast, a podcast about cryptocurrency by cryptocurrency experts for people interested in cryptocurrency. It is great to have you here again as we explore all things crypto. Today I have Sophie on the show. Sophie found herself in the crypto space after leaving a successful career behind in traditional finance sector. She now acts as a consultant here at Orange Brick Road as well as for Crypto Sense, her own company, where she onboards people as well as advises them into crypto fundamental analysis. So stay tuned as we chat about Sophie's transition into the crypto space from traditional finance, different protocols, validating coins, and fundamental analysis. Enjoy. Welcome to the Orange Brick Road podcast. Today we have a special guest and a good friend of mine. Once again, just full transparency, she's my bestie. All right. Do you like that? Cool. It's Sophie. So say hello, Sophie.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. I'm pretty excited to be here as part of the OBR podcast. And yeah, you're one of my besties, dude. Like, I'm really enjoying being in this space, getting to know people who are deeply committed to the expansion of the crypto space and supportive of protocols and digital assets and all their shapes and forms.
Yeah, because it is a community, and you meet the best people. You know, you really, really do. Like, I think over the last couple of years since I've become sort of more public and gone to meetups and that sort of thing, because before when I first started, it was very insular. You know, I was just learning all by myself. And then when you sort of get your head around it, you then start expanding and talking to other people. I've met the most amazing people in the last 2 or 3 years.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know we've had a lot of kind of challenges about our points of view, particularly on fundamental analysis, but we'll get to that later on. But look, I think you're right. In all good humor and all seriousness, one thing I have found coming from the TradFi sector is that you don't generally have this sense of collegial disposition between people who are supportive of different protocols. And here I have found people who are supporting one chain versus another, those who are not maximalists in that way, but who are very open-minded, open source focused, decentralists. They really see the benefit and the beauty of kind of like a grass movements led initiative to bring all aspects of finance more directly to members of the public who've generally been locked out of these asset classes and these this form of financial and asset wealth creation. So that's why I really am all about the community and helping people to learn and educate and take responsibility for whatever you do in these markets.
Yeah, 100%. Because just go into a little bit about your background, because I know that you were in traditional finance for a while.
Yeah.
So, just give us a little brief sort of a bird's eye view or a 5-minute rundown on your resume, mate. Get the whole resume
That's about
out.
all it'll be.
Cool.
Government while I was at university, and then post that, traditional finance. Literally, I was employed. This is the funniest thing. A friend of mine, she did a master's in economics, and we went to the same franchise to get employment, interviews. And I basically came out ahead. I got a call later in the day, went in the morning to say, would you like to accept a contract to work with us? And my friend was like so perplexed. She said, I have a master's in economics. Like, why did they take you, someone with a psychology background and sociology background? And I said, well, they told me because, I have this capacity to interact with humans and really to get them. And they just need people who can relate to human beings. They can teach you all the rest of the TradFi stuff while they got you in-house. So
because you can talk non-geek to non-geek people. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's really what these markets are about. They really weave a compelling narrative. So just to finish off the CV bit. So yeah, most of my career has been in traditional banking finance with a major franchise globally in the New Zealand and London office. And I think I came away from that feeling a little bit disillusioned, thinking there's got to be more to a debt financing world than this. I've got to be looking for other opportunities, I think. to bring more equity to people having access to wealth creation opportunities beyond what banks are doing, to engineer the markets pretty much in their favor. And, that part of the banking system really sat unfavorably with me. And it led to me literally leaving back in 2012. I went into private equity for a little bit, after I finished my TradFi career. But I just wanted to look for something that was more human-centered, person-centered, really like enriching the little person. Not that there are little people, the everyday person who's looking for other tools.
And you've obviously found a home here in the crypto world.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, like, just interestingly, if you think it's interesting, I was part of the Bitcoins in Bali meetup group, and I had a dev friend, and he said, you got to get involved with this community. Like, if you're not going to go back into TradFi, come and get involved in this community and see what the crypto sector is all about. And that was back in Ubud in 2013. I think I went to my first meetup, and it's just pretty much the rest is history. I just continued to learn, to work through all of my cynicism and skepticism about these markets, because like they're very volatile. I didn't understand the volatility of them. And I certainly didn't understand the technology stack either. I really didn't get how it impacted me, because all of the people in the room were mostly devs. There were very few non-technical people, and they were speaking at such a level that I couldn't really understand. They're talking about TVLs and, chartists and all of this kind of thing, which is all great, of course, but it was such a steep learning curve. I really had to ask myself continually, what is the relevance of these markets for somebody like me, or people like me?
And is that where you were introduced to crypto? Was it like in Bali, just at a meetup, or a friend got you involved, or how did that all work out?
It was a developer friend, Renee, and he's been like very interested, and he's a blockchain developer, and he just teaches himself. Like, he just taught himself a bunch of new languages because of this movement. I think he learned Rust and Ruby on Rails. I'm not even sure if Ruby on Rails is related to the protocol that he was looking at the time, but just so simply interested in thinking about how creative developers are about proliferating the open source nature of the decentralized finance protocols, or mostly the layer 1 protocols. It was mostly conversations about Ethereum, conversations about Bitcoin. There was a very strong Bitcoin maximalist kind of flavor to the group. And it was called Bitcoins in Bali. It was run by macroeconomist Gary. And it was like the coolest thing, like a really even number of women and men, but they just all seemed to really dig this idea of decentralization. And they talked about things like scalability. Like, I really didn't have any idea. It was just like going right over my head, but I just could see the energy in the room, when you're just with a bunch of people who are super enthusiastic, it feels a bit fringe on the margins, and things on the margins always really appeal to me, because that's where growth is as a human being. And I think with technologies, and I knew in the TradFi sector, there wasn't a lot of growth going on. In fact, it seemed like that business model was shrinking and becoming, more and more, I think, irrelevant from a creative perspective. And, shrinking margins are a good way for you to see your future. You need to think about your career. Maybe I need to be looking elsewhere to, expand my knowledge base and my enjoyment of my career prospects.
So what did you like, because you worked in traditional markets for many years, do you think that helped you in any way, or set you up in any way to have a more of an understanding of crypto? Like, did you bring anything from that community into this community?
Yeah, it's pretty humbling, because, to be honest, like, the simplistic tool set that I brought from that that way of doing business into the crypto markets is simply this. It's understanding, what are the fundamentals that make a business really good? And why would you want to back them? Why would you want to extend any credit to them? Why would you want to, offer them any kind of range of, debt options to help them to grow or expand their business? And I simply applied, I think, a very similar approach to the crypto protocols. So I looked at them as businesses, decentralized businesses, but businesses nonetheless. And what I was trying to understand is, like, what are the critical factors that make these businesses successful as businesses? So it's offering, it's like the long-term effect of saying to somebody who maybe is coming to you for a mortgage. I think most people understand that. or maybe a car loan or a personal loan, you're doing business with a human being. And, they have inflow of cash coming in. They've got the capacity to service debt with you. And, you're going to look at like their history, right?
Sure.
Their history of credit, their history of income generation, and their future prospects. So your way you're going to structure your loan with them, for example, super simple, is based upon a few things, related to their capacity to generate and sustain servicing your debt over time. And so I brought that very simple analogy into the crypto markets, looking each and every one of the businesses as long-term potentials for an investment on that basis. Try and understand the long-term value.
Yeah, because there's so many areas to go into in the cryptoverse, and it's almost like you bring a unique set of skills from your previous experience in traditional finance to the crypto industry. And I think a lot of other people are doing that as well. They're migrating into, once they get their head around the technology and the prospect and all that sort of thing. So you've ended up running like your own business, and several, you're involved in several different things, like a crypto sense. Yeah. Well, when did you start that, and why did you start it?
Well, I started that. I pivoted back in 2021 in January, because more officially here, now I live in Australia. So just to be clear, I was actually doing crypto coaching back in 2016 over in Bali with friends, as well as people internationally. Through a women's group I used to belong in. It was a really big thing for the women's group to understand, what are some of the financial tools to help us to become, more, wealth conscious and creative about our money generating capacities. And so I did a lot of online to major groups, like we had big group calls and we would talk about all things cryptocurrency, and we had a Telegram channel. And then I stopped doing that when I came and relocated to Perth. But I decided in 2021, we're at the end of the bear market, and generally, when things are coming into a bull market, you get a lot more optimism and a lot more kind of activity. So I wanted to be a part of that, because, 2016 was the same situation. It was preceding, the bull market. There was a quietness about it, but people were really optimistic. In 2017, I literally had more of my clients during the ICO, hype, that market. And so that was the reason for doing it, coming here. And it's just a passion of mine. It's something that I've been involved with personally as an investor for that long. And I am a long-term investor. I consider myself to be an investor and not a trader. Trader being somebody who's really looking to gain their profits and returns from short-term market movements. And, people are very skilled at doing that. They use charts and a whole range of other technologies that I don't rely upon. So I simplify for myself with crypto sense and interacting with people who want to take long-term positions within the markets. I'm not an advisor, so I never advise someone, but I educate them as to the perspective that I bring to the markets about how they could look at, some core success factors that potentially, if monitored and understood over time, can help them to make some, positive decisions about deploying whatever portion of their funds that they have available to invest in a particular protocol over a 3 to 5 year time frame.
Yeah, I think that time horizon is a minimum 3 to 5 years, and I explain that to clients as well. It is, you've got to look at it like that as a minimum. What sort of clients? Well, I know it's a general sort of a question, but what sort of clientele do you think that are attracted to your type of services?
Well, mostly men.
Right.
There are mostly men, I think, who are active in this market. I know that there were some statistics that came out in Australia recently, which talked about a lot more women getting involved. And they being, like at the forefront, at least, of initiating their foray into the crypto markets in 2021. So maybe there'll be a little bit more of an upturn in having female clients, but mostly male clients who have got disposable income and they really want to know how to improve their current knowledge. So they're generally not people who are completely green. They're people who are either semi-trading, trading, and they don't know about fundamental analysis. They've heard about it and they want to really expand their knowledge base, their knowledge set. One female client, that being said, she had been in the markets. I think she had a little over 30,000 Australian dollars deployed, and it was just kind of accidental money that happened to be just invested in on tips from friends over preceding years. And she said, you know what? She said, I've traded many other types of instruments, but not cryptos. However, I've got this portfolio that's sitting there. I'd really like to understand it, because she said, I can't get my head around what the real fundamentals of this market are. I see the charts, I can understand that, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper. So she was ready to explore it, and she was so satisfied, I think, that she had another perspective that she could bring to her portfolio, which she will now go ahead as a result of our work and consolidate.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Because we've all got to do that from time to time. Because I end up buying things and I've even forgotten I've got them, and all of a sudden I've got like 40, 60 different coins, and half of them I can't remember. So okay, time to consolidate. we get them all into one little manageable package. So. Okay, so give me an example. Like, if I'm okay, I've heard about this crypto thing. Don't know a lot about it. I've heard good things about different projects, but I don't understand the fundamentals about it, or how to choose an investment. What's the process that you take people through?
Well, here's the thing. This is what it is and this is what it is not. I really have, for my own personal benefit and also for those of clients, it'd be fair to say, researched around 20 templates, and I create templates based on what I consider having kind of overviewed the market, to look at those protocols which I have a degree of, a pretty high degree of comfort with. Some of them are more kind of risk averse, and some of them are more kind of like they're newer. They have a higher kind of a risk profile, if you will. And so I've already made a pre-selection of various templates of protocols or layer 2 applications that I think are solid from the perspective of they tick all the boxes vis-a-vis the network effect that has literally been generated in terms of community participation in those protocols. And you can see that by taking a look at, the blockchain metrics. You can see the truth of it. And then also from the point of view of, the projects themselves, having docs teams. I mean, you can see we've had some amazing shams out there in the market, and people who are not doxed and are not showing themselves to the market. You can almost say, do you want to be involved in putting money into projects where people are unwilling, to talk publicly and openly to people who want to support and participate in their projects? And the third thing is also the financial metrics. I think those are really important to look at. I'm just talking about the simple ones like, market cap and volume. Those are good proxies for value on a changeable basis. But the underlying, I think, pieces of information that we don't often talk about are the network effects, the blockchain metrics, which show literally the health of a particular network, over and above the hype that you might see on Twitter or in like online website magazines and things like that. So I show people how to really distinguish what the value and the health of a network is in that way, using some very simple blockchain explorer metrics. And they're not all the same for every project, by the way. Some blockchain explorers have got more in-depth data feeds that they can show to the public, versus others that are a bit more scant and in development in that regard.
So like, just for my clarity, like, do you go like say use case, market fit, adoption rate, look at the adoption rate, whether it's organic or it's paid, because you do get a lot of projects that just shill, and they put like and they have entire farms that just shill. So is that how you do it? You basically go, okay, does this project have a use case in the community? Okay, yes, it does. Okay, on what metric or what scale? What else is out there on the market that is competing with? What is it doing that's unique in the marketplace? What's its adoption rate? What's the team? what's the inflation, what's their burn rate. You go into all that sort of thing, and you've got like
So I
stages.
wondered if I could share my screen, but I don't know if that's permissible or what you want in this recording, because like quite simply, it's this. The 4 factors are, social media and community engagement. And you spoke about the adoption rate and, organic versus non-organic. I don't really get into that because I think that some people, they'll just have a look and say, oh my gosh, they've got over 1 million followers, like Bitcoin's got like 4.4, and they think, okay, back of the envelope, that looks like not an unreasonable number. That looks like a project that's really very popular. Let's say I knew nothing about the Bitcoin protocol in depth. I've just heard what I've heard through the mainstream media, and it's not always positive, but that could be a point of validation. Some people want to be a part of a project which has quite a number of social media followers, and you can't tell from that number clearly whether they are participants who are actually investing their money. So you don't know if they're putting their money where their mouth is in that regard. But nonetheless, you just get a sense, right? Versus, another protocol which might have under 100,000. So obviously the difference between the two is one is nascent and maybe a very kind of like a low cap. And then the other, like Bitcoin, you could say, well, there's more traction. So I think I'd be interested to look at that one a little bit more. And then when you get into like the on-chain network usage or the public blockchain metrics, then you can explore things like, for example, and Bitcoin is probably the most easiest one to use this methodology, is to say, well, how many miners are there kind of like operating this system, if you understand what Bitcoin is. Like, what does a decentralized system look like? Does it mean if you have 2,000 miners, it's a decentralized system, or maybe 10,000 or 100,000? Like, what is the distributed effect of the number of players who are actually operating and supporting the viability of this platform? So that's a place where you can get validation of the moving data in that regard. You can even see, for example, with the transaction hashing power, when there are less miners who are open and supportive of the network. And one of the most critical factors was 2021, back in about May, I think. Was it May, June? Yes, May, when the Chinese government legalized Bitcoin. You could see like, a 20% drop in mining activity. It was probably more. And that was directly as a result of the hashing power being switched off in China. Yep. And then you could see like over the next couple of months, that growth regenerating externally to China. They say, I don't have the proof of it, but you could see the hashing power, at least on the blockchain, coming back online up to kind of announcements of a legalization of mining in China. So this can really help you to understand, I think, from a fundamental point of view, what the network health is like. And I've just used a very basic example, but you don't actually get to see that just by listening to a report. Oh yeah, there's been a drop, or looking at charts. You get a confidence about understanding where, using data which is publicly available, you can verify for yourself the validity of these statements that have been made. But that's just a very basic example.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. Do you look into things like what's been built on top of protocols, like what's been built on top of
Definitely
Polygonmatic, Solana, Cardano?
Definitely.
Yeah, because
that's part of the
that's
use
adoption.
Case.
Yeah.
I think it's really critical because, that I would put into the category of probably like project management, project data. That to me points out like the expansiveness of the business use case.
But now that we've got little cross chains and parachains and all that sort of stuff happening, all these things that we couldn't foresee like even a couple of years ago, and where it's sort of heading and developing, it's I think what's happened in the last sort of 3 to 5 years is going to be nothing compared to what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5. Do you reckon you'd agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. And look, one of the areas, and maybe I could just like talk about a couple of other projects that I'm really passionate about at the moment that I'm involved in, is that these markets are becoming more sophisticated. It's taking a lot of pain, I think, to get there because we're still getting, these massive kind of like exploits that are going on in the market. It's an unfortunate thing. It really is a very unfortunate thing, because I think that tarnishes the image and tarnishes the rate of adoption. Nonetheless, that also goes on in the traditional finance market. So let's just be very clear. I think the MSM are very quick to point out the problems that come, with rug pulls and various other things in these markets. But just looking at the growth potential, absolutely. And one of the areas which I think where adoption could be so much faster and more rapid for people who have got no interest in trading, no interest in understanding the underlying value of protocols, could be through the NFT markets. And the NFT markets are becoming incredibly sophisticated, and they're merging with GameFly, they're merging with metaverse kind of products and services. And I'm involved in 2 projects at the moment, which are very passionate about having NFTs be at the core of their value offering proposition. So I think that that's really cool to see that we do have capacity for real businesses to use NFTs as a way of delivering value and service, to their customer base or their potential customer base.
Yeah, right down from everything, from music to real estate to gold mines to pictures, artwork.
Absolutely. And I was really also quite enamored by a dev friend who just sent me a link to this project which can actually help you to stake your NFTs. Like it's getting to a very sophisticated level where people are going to reward you for doing what you would do in a decentralized finance manner, although this is a little bit different because the rewards do not need to be, and probably ought not to be, but that depends on the creative team. Tokens, it could be tokens, but it could be like enhanced user experiences. Yep. Or access to enhanced user experiences, because fans of, say, creative artists, I know you've got music in your blood, they might want to offer rewards as being new experiences with the artist as opposed to money. And all of that can be like tracked in terms of the fidelity and long-term support that a customer or a user or a fan might have by, staking contracts. So that was kind of like a new reveal for me last night. So I don't know everything there is to know. Like, these markets are so diverse. They move so rapidly. It's very hard to say you're an expert of anything and everything, but I think you just keep in the game and keep learning. And being in projects which are going to help to, bring innovation, I think, to the forefront.
Yeah, well, this is right. I mean, we do this full time and we struggle to keep up, like we do this all day, every day.
You do?
Yeah. But it's good having other people around you that specialize in different areas, though. Because if I want to know anything to do with fundamental analysis, I know to call you, or NFTs, or Julia, do you know what I mean? Or Abidi for this, or Jordan for that, or Harlan for this. And they all specialize. John O, Manor Farm and the Drip Network, and, all these different areas, because you literally cannot keep up.
That's right.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick plug before we get back to the show. Crypto markets can be quite overwhelming space to be involved in, especially if you're starting out. There is a lot to get your head around, like security, purchasing crypto, exchanges, wallet, taxes, and a whole bunch more. That is why we've pulled together an expert consultants to help you through the journey. If you jump on our site at orangebrickroad.com.au/crypto-consulting, you will find a number of different consultants with specialties in different areas. Simply book a call with a consultant and you're off and running. Once again, that is orangebrickroad.com.au/crypto-consulting.
One of the beautiful use cases that I'm working with is a project called Ocean Floor Music, and that's a local Perth-based WA project. And the heart behind the musicians who are the co-founders of this project, and really enabling people, artists, creatives, to come to to really be pushed at the top of the value chain in terms of having their projects produced.
Sure.
Having a platform for crowdfunding, the project value in the OFM token. For me, I was so passionate about that because I thought, I love music. I don't know that many people who don't love some form of music, whether it be spiritual chanting or, heavy metal or, kind of indie.
Yeah, sure. It's a unifier. It doesn't matter what's left or right on the political, sphere, or whether you're into sports or you like playing, golf. The one thing that I think in Australia we got sort of a few common links is music, definitely, sport, and drinking.
In that order.
Probably the opposite way around,
And if you're in New
actually.
Zealand, maybe barbecues and boating.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, like, look at the use case for the music industry, and like, I'm tracking about 8 different protocols at the moment to look at how they are using Web3 technologies to create viable, long-term, sustainable projects, which give another way of artists to engage in doing what they really love, getting the value that really they deserve. I mean, 15% in the traditional legacy music industry, of the overall value of your of music that's generated off your back. I'm going to say it that way. I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but literally that's the way I think it is. Comes back to you, the artist, and the rest goes to the distribution and other kind of mechanism in the industry. And to me, I thought, like, wouldn't it be great to just have another way that artists would have more direct access with less of the intermediary costs built in, and have more direct access to their fans without having to route them through.
Yeah, these centralized organizations like Sony and EMI and Mushroom and that sort of stuff that have had a monopoly for so long. And when you say that an artist gets 15%, that's not off what's generated, that's what's left.
Okay,
That's literally what's left. And no artist that I know, and well, some of them, like the bigger ones, have sued record companies in order to see the books.
Right.
To go, okay, what was your expenditure and all that sort of stuff to see what was actually left over. But you had to be like a really big artist to do that. Like a medium to small artist just wouldn't have the money, the time, or the energy, and that's what I like about cutting them because I know the project you're talking about, we've spoken about it a couple of times, is the direct connection to their client base, or their fan base, basically. Okay, it's almost like a subscription model with the NFTs and that sort of stuff, where depending on what level you'll get first release of tickets or options for it, backstage passes, private chat rooms, extra features, and that the artists themselves can offer all these other things, as opposed to a record label goes, oh, there's a CD and a poster.
Yeah, so to be really clear, like Ocean Floor Music is not proposing in any way, shape or form to retain rights to any of the copyright. Like, it's a platform, it's providing the infrastructure for the crowdfunding to actually take place. The crowdfunding is the OFM, and then on the back of that, it's like, well, okay, you need more than that. You also be needing to offer rewards and incentives to people to actually participate in your crowdfunding as well. Or you might have other unique items that you might want to just literally sell to also augment your revenue flow. So, it's proposing to be a very value-added business, Web3 business in that regard.
And I'm all for it. Hopefully it's going to re-inject into the music industry, some really good talent that in the normal sphere of things just wouldn't have the opportunity.
And the one thing I find really good, it's not about shilling, but just to see how sensible the ecosystem is. There are industry producers and audio engineers, sound engineers, mentors, all sorts of things who are willing to actually interact with the OFM ecosystem and literally be paid in these tokens. So it's a great way to look at, creating value in a system which can, literally at a future point also be off-ramp. Like, if you need to off-ramp your tokens, there is that capacity as well. But it's about helping people to understand that you can actually do business, with tokens, and they do hold value.
Yeah, that's right. It's another ecosystem. And I've looked into it. I think it's a great idea, but that's just one of many examples of how blockchain and this technology is sort of revamping industries, right down to real estate, to art, music, pretty much you name it. I can see that blockchain and is going to pretty much change just about everything, right down to supply chains, inventories, the whole 9 yards. So
If you
that's
don't
one
mind,
pro.
one thing I'd like to just like touch on very briefly is like the GameFly industry, like
Oh yeah, huge.
yeah, for example, there's Dat Radar. They're an aggregator of activity, and I'm not saying that everything that goes through OpenSea and all of those other big marketplaces are all related to games, but the NFT market. I think since DappRadar started aggregating, it started as about like 54 billion. Look, I think the turnover is at least a minimum of 5 billion from the marketplaces that they follow per month. So that's a pretty hefty and growing, market. And a great percentage of those would be attributable to NFTs that would be used, created, minted, and resold on the secondary market, and then deployed within games.
Yep.
Within Web3 companies. So this is like a massive, I think, industry that is about to be set off. Like there's a lot of criticism of why we would do it this way, but I think that's what innovation is about. It's testing the boundaries about how to use NFTs, about giving more power over the assets that are within the games. My son used to play like this game where he had skins. I don't really remember the name of it, but he never owned those skins. He couldn't trade those skins outside of the game. He had to only trade them within the game, and when he wanted to off-ramp, basically he had to ditch them. If he stopped playing the game, those skins had no future value for him, which is very different when you look at the NFT market. Those assets that you purchase within the game, like the skins, the whatever else, I don't know, maybe little treasures, the diamonds, the crystals, the swords, everything else,
Yeah, sure.
you get
Yeah.
to trade them on a secondary market if you want to exit them. So you've actually paid for them and you retain value and some ownership over them. And so I think it's a very new way to encourage the game industry to think about how they create games and how, they allow people to have more and more access to their own value that they create. Like you purchase the thing, why shouldn't you be able, to resell it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the gaming and virtual reality and all that sort of stuff, it hasn't even started. It really is at its peak, where you've got things like McDonald's in the VR and all that, and Nike that are all getting involved in Web3. Where you can walk around and walk into a Nike store and check out different shoes. I like that shoe, order the size, all that sort of thing, and then it gets delivered to your home. You know, it's things like that are amazing. Like walk into a Pizza Hut or whatever and make your own pizza in virtual reality while you're talking to your friend and order it, and it gets delivered to your home.
Yeah,
Like
nice.
go on cruise ships, or mountain climbing on tour guides and all that sort of stuff. Like with Sandbox and Decentraland and Axiom and all these other things that just doing amazing things. I think it's going to be in 8-10 years, it's going to be unrecognizable to
I
what
think
we're
so.
experiencing now.
And I think everyone has to think through for themselves, do they want to be wearing those 3D glasses or whatever they are, to kind of navigate through the world? And everyone has choice, I believe. I'm just very interested to see, how this technology can be a benefit actually
Yeah,
to people. And I'm choosing to be involved in a project. I'm a co-founder of it. Actually, it's called Rhubarb Barbershop, and it's a pivot of two kind of like failed efforts to bring regenerative agriculture into the forefront as a regenerative agriculture certification business and as a regenerative agriculture marketplace business. So the really cool thing is, together with the other co-founders, we sat down and we thought, well, look, we haven't been able to convince the market to get involved at that level of having a certification system which showed that they were regenerative agriculturalists making food that's produced in the most healthiest way for human beings and the planet, like achieving on both counts there. So why don't we look at our third option? And the objective was really to educate people everywhere about the benefits of regenerative agriculture, of producing food in such a beneficial way. And out of that came a game. So we've created these very beautiful NFTs, which are called Roos. And I know there are other kangaroo projects out there in the markets, and, we wish them well. Of course, we're not competing against you. But Rhubarb Barbershop, it's really about when you have one, it's a statement that speaks to, I love the health of the soil. I love, land care. This is what I stand for. I mean, soil health is a very big part of the degeneration of our food supply and the quality of it. So the game literally is created to help bring awareness to that, but it's got to be very entertaining, of course. But the NFTs are a great part of that ecosystem as well.
What's the name of that project?
Rhubarb Barbershop. And why a barbershop? Because a barbershop is a metaphor in our world for reflection and transformation and thinking about transforming the land, but transforming the human beings who eat better, who eat healthier, and they have sustainable incomes. I mean, the rate of suicide amongst agriculturalists in Australia over the last 10 years has been at an all-time high. And our environmental scientist on our team, you know, he's like brought that to our attention. And he said, look, if there's anything we can do to also share the message about promoting, you know, mental health awareness and improvement, then, you know, we would like to kind of intertwine that into our vision for the project. So it's very much a part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you maybe it's just your little bit of a Kiwi accent that's coming out even now and then. Oh, that was actually sounded South African. The Rhubarb Barbershop. Can you spell that for us, please?
So Roo,
or just say it in English, one of the two.
Roo as the diminutive of kangaroo, ROO. Roo mob as in a cohort or group of kangaroos. I think that's
Roo.
I didn't know that.
Mob.
Like
Okay. Barbershop.
mob. Yeah, like gangster mob.
Right.
Barbershop. Yeah, Rhubarb Barbershop. And that's the name of the team. That's the name of the project. And that will be the name of the game. And it's very fun, but it's a way of really generally connecting. And look, what I'm saying is it's just a use of these digital assets. These digital assets are proxies for value, and they're proxies for value within the game. And they will only be meaningful to people who care about, you know, this type of a project and want to be a part of it, and support also some of the funds that are going to be distributed back into the community of farmers, into the community of organizations who care about animal conservation or environmental conservation causes and mental health causes. And this is the cool thing about some of the Web3 companies that I can see out there, with them also being the case, is creating donations to organizations that really are making a social impact in their chosen areas.
Yeah, and it's going directly to them. It's not going through, you know, paying for CEOs and you know, to fly around everywhere and have nice cars and eat at nice restaurants. You know, yeah, I've got a big thing against charities. I think that they waste, you know, for every dollar I think that actually goes to what they're promoting. I reckon every dollar that's donated, probably 10 cents actually hits the ground. You know, that makes a difference.
Yeah, of course. I completely understand. And like one of the charities that we're dealing with, like they publish their results. They don't even have an office. So they've been around for maybe 15, 20 years. And, you know, they generate on pre-COVID times, I think they're 7 figures consistently per year in donation revenue. And their overheads are so small. I think it's roughly no more than 20% of all the money that they bring in is actually used for overheads. Most of it goes directly back to purchasing land to help the environments of these animals that they're protecting, you know, to live on, basically. And then the farmers and the people who work around them and in them, in these protective environments, to be resourced, you know, to be supportive in that ecosystem as well. So
yeah, I'm really hoping that blockchain and the technology that we're developing now, or we count myself a part of it. I'm not a dev. I would never be one. They're just too weird, and you know that too because you've met some. Yes, and I'm talking about you, Karen. They're a certain breed, aren't they?
They are. They've just got this other way of kind of like developing their creative ideals for society, and I think that's the beauty of it. Like
I love them because they just view the world in such a really strange, different way of looking at it, and they're the type of people I love. I like the Misfits and the, you know, the outcasts and that sort of thing, which is cool.
So
for
I just
crypto.
fit right in there.
Yeah, mate. Yes, sister. I had
I consider myself to be that mainstream for many years.
You're definitely not mainstream, mate. Can attest to that. I had I was about to say his name, but I had one of the guys come in the other day, and he was explaining to me about the forking of Ethereum into Pulse chain and how the coins are going to be copied over and all this sort of stuff. And I went, dude, I'm not following you. I don't understand, right? And so I said, listen, because I got whiteboards all over the place. I'm like, here, come and draw it, so I can visually see it and ask questions. And he's drawing it and he's just looking at me, just going, you got it? And then just kept on going, you got it? And I'm like, every time he looked at me, I'm like, no, I don't.
And he carried on his merry way.
Like, I've been in crypto a while. I understand certain things, and I've got sort of a reasonable, I would think, a reasonable understanding. And I'm like, I went to say his name again. I went, dude, please don't explain this to anyone else again the way you've just explained it to me, especially a new person.
Yeah, get somebody like me to do it for you.
That's right. I need a translator, right? So we've organised for him, because what we're doing at Orange Brick Road is we're getting people on to do, and they go and they talk about different protocols, and because this person's involved in this baking thing and all that sort of stuff. And so I think, and you know who I'm talking about now. Yeah. And then they do a demo, and then people can just ask them questions. And on the website, it's going to pop up like, this week we're touching on this network, this, each week different ones. And I'm like, dude, if we're going to get you on, first off, because we are doing it already, we're doing it internally. So we're just doing it amongst our teachers and people we know before we unleash them to the public, so they sort of nail their presentation down and the type of questions they're going to get. And I'm like, dude, if any time that you're going to do a presentation, we need a translator, someone that can go, because they're so smart, right? They're such intellectuals that when they explain things to you, they think that you can keep up, and they have like a lot of assumptions. And sometimes it's like talking to an alien. It really feels like that. And don't get me wrong, I love them. I love them with all my heart. It's just like, you really shouldn't go out in public alone, sometimes.
Yeah, like it's really niche. These conversations are really niche. And something I do appreciate, that being said, is there is the capacity for pretty much anyone who's just got an interest and open-mindedness about learning any level of the technologies or the financial kind of flows that go through, value flows that go through these protocols. Like if you've got any interest in any of that, I think you're going to get it at some level, what the cryptocurrency markets are, and learn to see, I think the maturation of certain parts of the market, like the protocols, the layer 1 versus the layer 2 applications, the layer 3 applications, for example, the NFT markets, the decentralized finance markets. I mean, like there's going to be aspects of the way that these markets are kind of like maturing in very specific and different ways now. They're becoming more distinguishable. That, whatever is of interest to you, you can perhaps interact with that part of it and nothing else. You don't have to necessarily take on exposure to the entire market, although understanding the risk and the systemic risks is something which I enjoy doing, because risk management is, I think, your priority when you want to be part of these markets.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of a downfall. It was for me when I first started too, is that I wanted to know everything. And you just don't have the capacity to do it. Like you can have a broad understanding of things, but then you kind of find your niche, and things that you like and the things that you appreciate. Because if you were try to understand every aspect of the market, your head would explode. And I think what happens with a lot of people when they first start is they want to learn all this, so they throw themselves at every single different aspect, and it becomes so overwhelming that they just stop. And then they stop looking into crypto. They're going,
it's
too
a little bit
confusing.
Unfortunate, actually, because it feels like sometimes with any new technology or any new goal that you might be setting for yourself. So if your goal is to actually invest or to trade in these markets, you're going to hit some kind of like barrier, aren't you? Some fear barrier at some point. And I think one of the things is the smart thing to do is maybe just to sit back, give yourself a little bit of time and keep going. Because like we've got to reprogram ourselves, I think, outside of our comfort zone. To be in the comfort zone is to really let other financial institutions and investment organizations basically take care of your financial wealth for you.
Yep.
And because when you start putting yourself into the I am responsible for informing myself, about how to interact now with, wealth creation tools that I've never had access to before. It's a complete mindset change. So I just kind of offer a word of encouragement to people out there. If that's you, take a pause, but please come back. You will find your level of comfort somewhere in the markets. You will find people that you can get in front of and beside of to learn. You'll go to crypto meetups. I love to do that. I love to hold them, actually. I'll be starting the ones up in Rockingham very soon.
Excellent.
Once we can find a suitable venue. And I think that's just all par for the course. There is no pain without it's growth without pain. That pain being a proxy for just being outside of your comfort zone in that way.
Yeah, and I kind of love that. I touched on this for a couple of podcasts before. Was we do a lot of teaching one-on-one and generally online screen sharing, sometimes in person, depending on where they are or whatever. And there's nothing better, I reckon, than having someone that's, say, 50 years old plus, right, and they haven't used Zoom before or Skype or whatever. So you're like, okay, hit screen share. Oh, where's that? It's in the middle. Okay, it's at the bottom there. You'll see it. Then, okay, oh yeah, I've done that. Okay, well now you've got to affirm it. Oh, where's that? Oh, you'll see it. It'll pop up, and then you finally get them to see the screen, and you go, okay, go up to the top left-hand corner, and click on the thing. No, that's the other left. No, the top, not the bottom. Oh, sorry. I'm not too familiar with it. I'm like, man, I think that you're brave to do that because you're putting yourself so far out of your comfort zone that you're trying to learn these new skills, and you're doing it in front of someone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I applaud that because most people, I mean, it's like when I was teaching music, just to go on another little segue, it's like you get someone that's sort of, one example was I had this guy, I happened to be in a certain place because my brother was there and all this sort of stuff. And this big bricklaying, concreting guy came up to me, sort of 45, 50, maybe a bit older, big goatee, tattoos everywhere. And he goes, "Oh, listen, mate, I heard your brother told me that you're a musician and you're a teacher and all, and you play guitar and stuff." I'm like, yeah, I do. And he goes, "Well, you're going to teach me, all right?" And I went, "Oh, to be honest with you, mate, I normally teach people that already have a sound sort of knowledge in music, at the lecture room and all that sort of stuff. I've never taught and I've taught kids, obviously, but I've never taught someone your age, with your background and all that, so I don't know how it's going to go." Anyways, he's like, "I don't bloody care, mate, but I'll pay you a carton per lesson, all right?" I'm like, "All right, brother."
There's your free beer.
That's right. I went, okay, well, let's just organise that for every Friday afternoon then, shall we? So anyways, my learning experience, I learned more from him than he would have learned from me, I reckon, just because I had to explain it to him and he didn't have the technical knowledge on how to play music or even how to hold it, and he's like, and he was apologizing. He's like, "Oh, sorry, man. I know other people get, I'm like, "Dude, what have you been doing for the last 30 years? And he goes, "Oh, I'm a grano worker, but also da-da-da," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. You got a family?" He's like, "Yeah, married and I've got 2 kids." And I'm like, "Okay, so you're an honest worker, you're a top bloke, you're a family person, you look after your wife, you look after your kids, and you work hard and you provide, I honor that, mate. But to be honest with you, without sounding insulting, well, when was the last time you had to study and learn anything?"
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It was probably
That's
high
right.
school or his
That's
apprenticeship,
Good point.
So I say that to people that are starting crypto,
Exactly.
they might be 35 or 28 or whatever. So when
Or
was the last
much
time?
older.
That's right, or much older, when was the last time you learnt anything where you had to
And there are
study
no
it and have to
apologies
apply it?
about it, are there? There's no apologies. It's like, you know what, wherever you come into the market, it's like, it's perfectly fine. There's everything to be learned. And, basically you got to start somewhere. And I really admire how, with your business, you're helping people to just get up and running and, take things at their pace, get them into, a level of comfort with the markets that they're interested in. You help them to do the very practical things like actually how to get your wallets and to get your accounts in a centralized exchange and all the rest of it, so they can actually go to the market directly, to make
Yeah.
those to make their buys and sells when they need to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's even a learning curve right there. It's not like going to a bank, you've got to be responsible for the keys that you hold. If you're going to go and get a hardware wallet, for example, once again, you've got to be responsible. So there's a lot that's new to learn. And I think that people like you who are out there teaching people these ways, I feel, that's honorable too. If we didn't have people who are interested in teaching others who didn't know, it'd be a little bit messy.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. And I think trying to break things down they go, oh, with this and that, and I've heard of this and I've heard that. And I'm like, okay, you don't need to know any of that yet. Okay. You need to know this first. And then once you know that, then move on to this, because there's that much information out there. It's almost like shiny object syndrome. Whereas, I'm here, I'm there. It's centralizing them down, but also giving them the understanding. And I know that you do this because you've trained a person, or you're training a person that I know and all that, is that when you're teaching someone, you're explaining something to them and clarifying it, but you're personalizing it so it's their understanding, whether they're visual, or they're hands-on, or they're very intellectual, or they need to analyze things or whatever. You kind of clarify how they think. But then you, like, let's say with music as well, is 90% of your learning is going to be by yourself, right? So we provide the material, okay, do these courses, read these books, watch these videos, go away. And then when you then hook up with them, they then clarify what they've learned in their head by asking questions.
Exactly. I encourage question asking all the way through. And, it's generally like for myself when I'm working with somebody and they want to have an understanding of how to grow a portfolio, create a portfolio beyond, the basic essentials. So like the crypto coaching is in two parts. There's the basic essentials, the basic crypto essentials, which literally just gets you a basic understanding of to understand the markets, gets your accounts all opened. And, you'd look at about 3 protocols in depth. But that in and of itself is enough for some people to say, you know what, that's all I need from you. I'm away. I'm going to go away and do the rest by myself. Others might come back for round 2, which is diversifying your portfolio. So by diversifying the portfolio, it's the potential portfolio that you may or may not want to get. And it's looking at a range of different protocols in a more in-depth way to understand what are the benefits, the risks, the use cases, the adoption, all of those things that we spoke about before, and then saying, okay, right, now do I feel on the basis of all that information that I want to create a portfolio with those crypto in them? And often people say, look, I want to put gold and I want to put silver, and I want to put other non-crypto assets into my portfolio as well. So it's pretty smart because they're thinking more broadly than just the crypto markets anyway, but they do want information that will help them to make more, I think, informed choices that they don't have to review every day because they're not traders. They would like to review their choices on, a 3-monthly, 6-monthly basis, updating that strategically. They're only putting in what they can afford. Clearly, you wouldn't want them to do more than that.
Yep.
It's more marginal kind of investment income for them versus income that capital that they actually need, to live off of. So that's the kind of reasonable people I think that are attracted to fundamental analysis.
Yeah, and nerdy people like you.
All of the above. Sorts in this market, doesn't it? But I love it because, fundamental analysis also gives you a good strength to be able to think about projects that you might want to get involved with and invest in directly, whether it be in your own equity and time or, cash and money. And these are other person's projects too. So.
Yeah, but just finishing up, but on that, like how we do it, once we've had a lesson, whatever, we send them a pack that has these people to follow, right? Now, when I first started, I subscribed to everybody and tried to get information from as many, but over the years, it's got smaller and smaller and smaller, so now I've only got like 3 or 5 people that I listen to, because I know that there are shills out there and they're paid, and I've learnt that over the years.
Yes.
What would you say to someone that would say, why do I need to do that when I can just follow 5 of these people on YouTube and they do it all for me, or It's a lot easier just if they tell me to buy something or I hear it on YouTube, as opposed to doing my own research.
Well, the simple answer is it's all about choice. I mean, if people want to kind of like outsource everything to someone else, but they don't actually take the time to credentialize those people that they're outsourcing their investment decisions to, then that's a choice that they can take. Like, I don't deny anyone the opportunity to do that if that's the general way that they act in business. There is going to be, I guess, a consequence of it, and it might be a very painful one. So it's certainly not one that I recommend, but I understand that if people want to have those choices, you know, like away they go, that they're probably not the kind of people that I'd want to be dealing with. But if people want to take a little bit more of a rational approach and a reasoned approach and say, do you know what, I might listen to 2 or 3 people like you do yourself.
Yep.
And I'm willing to get some education so that I can understand for myself, like, the legitimacy of somebody's advice, free advice, then I think that's worth paying for. I think that's very smart, whether it be your advice, Brandon, or whether it be your frameworks that you're offering people through your crypto training, or mine, or someone else's. But fundamental analysis is not personal to me. I just happen to use it in a personalized way with the frameworks that I offer people to work with to evaluate long-term value. So if people are willing to go to that extra level of investment in themselves, investment in, you know, building out a sustainable crypto portfolio, then I think by all means engage help if you don't know that much. And if you want to get results in a more shorter time frame.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, mate. 100% agree. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mrs. Sophie.
Thank you,
It's
Brandon.
been an absolute pleasure.
I'm glad we didn't have a fight about fundamental analysis. It was just wonderful.
No, we're going to do that off air.
Oh, okay, off air.
No.
No, it's been great. I love everything that you do. I love the whole OBR project, and bringing together different consultants, different people who are involved in the crypto space through OBR is just, it's really cool. It's very fun. I wish I could have my hat, but I gave my hat to someone to wear and they don't want to give it back.
So you need another one?
I need another one.
Cool, man.
With the girl piece at the back.
I've got some girl ones. Yeah, I've got the girl ones. Cool, man. All right.
Thanks, mate.
Well, hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right.
All right. Love you, sister.
Love you too. Yeah, matey.
Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe and share. Follow us on Orange Brick Road on Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook.